You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the MetaShow.
Hello!
Oh my.
Oh, hello.
That reaction, every time we start, you make the same face like, holy shit, I'm on screen! Wait a
I'm on
minute here,
TV.
I'm famous!
What is this?
Huh?
There's some sort of what? That's what I've got. So there we go. Well, it looks like my yeah. It's funny too because I get to watch my reaction on screen about 30 seconds after I react, so I can like do the are we doing this thing, and then seconds later I see my head spinning around like a madman and this wide-eyed, terrified look. So the audio is actually in sync. Is that happening?
So
Oh, wow.
about a month ago, like it looked like I was a Japanese subtitle
23
film.
months. Damn.
Yeah, we had a resubscribe at 23 months. Holy shit! Thanks.
JDO GSD won 23 months in a row. God damn.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
Damn,
so
son, that's a lot.
for like almost a month, Twitch audio was out of sync. Like, so it looked like I was talking, and then the audio would come like a second later. So it looked really funky, and I've been playing with it for a month, and it's finally somehow miraculously gone back to normal, and I don't have to touch it. Voodoo magic. I know.
Crazy.
So yeah, so we have a special meta show today. We have a special guest, Accessible Gamer. For those of you that
Hi,
watch his show, is here with us today. It's Kamal Knox, and we're going to be talking with him throughout the show, and we're also going to be talking about what he's doing coming up with TwitchCon. So that should be an interesting thing. Okay, so let's get started. A lot of interesting...
First Eve Online. That's an important thing.
A big lack of Eve news this week. There hasn't really been much going on. Usually I watch Reddit every day to see if there's any interesting Eve news. There really hasn't been. The FCon situation ended with like 900 people showing up to kill a tower.
Well, we should tell people who missed the show previously what is the AFCON situation, right?
All right,
so what?
Oh yeah,
What happened there?
probably
This
a good
is
story.
funny because this is going to be a story that's going to be happening over and over and over and over again because of the joys of an overreaction. So Stunt Flores, who of course is the CEO of the Honorable Anime Masters, who is God's gift to solo PvP. Stunt has been extorting AFCON by going over there and killing their ratters and informing them that they need to, tell him their favorite anime. And when they didn't tell him what their favorite anime was, he decided to throw down a Citadel in a high-index system. So what that means is that when you put down a Citadel in a SOB system that has a strategic index, each level of the index is an extra day before the damn thing's online. So he throws down an Astrahus, which is like 1.2 billion ISK, and then AFCON has like 6 days of notice before it comes online. Whereupon hilarity ensues because I think that did we even bother showing up for that?
Yeah,
But,
so here's the
like,
best.
Had this,
So
okay,
I helped Stunt with this. So the best part about it is I saw the Stunt tiers, and there were pages. I mean, it was pages. And it reminded me of the way FCON used to react around us, like calling us for help and all that. So I bought an Astra House for a billion ISK, flew it down like 35 jumps, said, okay, I'm going to online this. But I didn't have the rolls, and no directors were on. So I gave it to Stunt. So that's like, oh, I'll online it. This will add to the story. So he onlines it. But we forgot it takes 6 days, right? So it didn't come online until Thursday. But that worked even better because now we had a 6-day window for the diplomats and the freakouts and everybody better be here. FCOM was telling their guys every day for 6 days, you better be here. While at the same time, I got a couple emails from Tarquinius going, oh, we didn't call for help. No one's going to bother to come kill this thing. We're just going to kill it ourselves. 900 people showed up to kill it. We had like a 100-man fleet sitting in Thera laughing. Like we were watching, like I had a little like live stream for everyone. And they said that, the drone regions that came from BWF 40 jumps away were just roaming through with a 290-man fleet. That PL
They just happened to be in the area.
Yeah, the 200 PL and NC Dot and Darkness sitting on a wormhole were just doing their own thing, and the 300-man FCON fleet was just a random form-up. So they, yeah, random form-up. So they killed the Citadel pretty freaking easily. Even at one point, they dropped 40 dreads and sieged them because they needed a DPS or something. And it was an overreaction of epic proportion. I haven't seen an overreaction like that in almost a year. It was fucking hilarious.
They should have just told them what their favorite anime was. I mean, it's not hard. Mine's Eureka 7.
Also, by the way,
19 months
I want to give a big shout out here to my good friend Bill, who I will hopefully be partying with tonight. Risha and Starfury has resubbed for 19 months in a row.
Holy
We've got
shit.
a bunch, and there was Zedia earlier. JDogs01
That's awesome.
was Zedia, so our boy Zedia and Rishan throwing it down, which is awesome.
The best part about the FCON thing is I already dropped another one. They just haven't found it yet. And it's only got like a day to go, and it's been there for like 6 days, and I'm not going to say where that is.
I mean, I think we should just do this over and over again. So
Yes!
like, whenever you see this kind of
Yes.
overreaction, like, it's like one of those things where it's like, even when you don't turn up, it's almost better, because all these people will get all hot and bothered expecting, what I'm calling now like one of the shibboleths of knowing that somebody is one of our enemies is, in addition to referring to our coalition as the CFC, if people refer to their gameplay as content, that's usually a sign that they are the kind of people who are constantly trying to destroy the Imperium. So it's kind of hilarious when we are going to provide content in the form of everybody getting hot and bothered for 6 days at a go and then not turning up at all.
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing, and I expect more people to do it to FCON in the future because of how long it takes those things online. It's like SBUs, except for you have to sit and watch it for 6 days. It's not like an SBU where you can just form up, okay, let's go kill the thing quick. They have to suffer for 6 days going, oh my god, what's going to happen? Are they going to bring a real fleet? Are they going to call everyone? So it was, couldn't happen to a better group of people.
Also, shout out here to...
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it could have happened to CO2. That would have been better.
Nah, CO2
CO2, so I mean that entire situation is kind of politically a hot mess, all of it. So we're seeing some of the EVs that we have sort of jumping ahead and behind in terms of wow.
Fine.
Okay, so we've got two 6-month subs that I want to give a shout out to. So we have
nice.
both Herfy and Ogami Itu, both of whom has in the last
nice.
few minutes subscribed for 6 months in a row.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you guys. So one of the things that's interesting politically about all this is that like FCON is off in the sort of galactic east, I guess you would call it, sort of the mid area. At CO2 and all of this stuff, PL has been putting down more towers, and Psychotic Tendencies just moved in with them up in Venal, and are repeatedly going after CO2 and their former allies in the Guardians of the Galaxy Coalition, all of these people who were on their side during what they're loudly continuing to refer to as World War B. So all of it is just like, so like, sure, we could mess with CO2, but like with FCON, all you really have to do, it's like it's like a child who overreacts to everything, like a hypersensitive plaintiff. You'd say, hey guys, boo scary boo, we have a Citadel that boat threw down with a stunt, and then they like had some sort of amazing jack themselves off all over Reddit op about it. Like, guys, we blew the amazing good Citadel, we're totally invaded.
It gets
like,
even better.
This will not stand.
So at the internal stunt floors, of course, he's not being a nice guy, and so he's linking all their broadcasts in Elysium every day to talk about, when they freak out. And apparently their two diplomats don't even have access to their diplomatic forum and can only speak as diplomats if Tarquinius allows them to use that word. And it's basically Tarquinius is the boss and no one else gets to do anything ever. So their most recent diplomatic guy that talked to our diplomats about the whole killing the thing and celebrating was actually just their recruiter who like recruits in Jeddah. So that was their extent of their diplomatic team. So it's been absolutely a train wreck, and I've loved it. So another thing you bring up, I guess we could jump around here. Tissue and moving in with PL. So Tissue is officially, as of a couple weeks ago, I mean they've been there, but Tissue is officially moved into M5Y. They're currently living with PL, and they've been doing something even funnier. They've been farming branch. So you have PL and their pets have been farming tests. They've been farming CO2, and now you have Tissue thinking that their balls are the size of basketballs because they're next to PL, and have been dropping. Oh, that link didn't work very well. Anyways, but they've been dropping constantly on branch. And today we had some hilarity. So, of course, Reddit blew up when this happened, but the branch residents waterboarded. Alex...
Waterboarding, for people who Yeah, waterboarding, for people who aren't familiar with the tactic, waterboarding is when, and this was developed in the Halloween War, when the Wrecking Ball was still a thing before it was destroyed at BR5. If you can't actually handle a super capital fleet currently, if the super caps don't have enough support, what you do is waterboard them by simply constantly spewing dictors at them. And instead of actually trying to fight the supers, you just send dictor after dictor after dictor, and every time that they get a bubble down, they're stuck there for a couple minutes waiting, and then you just do it again. So the fleet is just stuck in space until either they grow up and get a sub-capital support fleet, which is what you're supposed to have for caps and super caps, or you get enough reinforcements to do this. And this is all sort of part of the, a spousal abuse party that is existing in the Northwest, where you have all these people who used to be allies and now they're getting farmed exactly as we predicted would happen. And I think what happened here is that these poor fuckers sat around waterboarding the super capital fleet, asking and begging for help from their other allies who are also part of the Abused Spouse Coalition, and nobody came. So how long were these tissue caps stuck there?
They were stuck for 2 hours. Effectively, what they did was sat there and farm kills. So for those that don't know, you don't need subcaps anymore to defend a super fleet if you have enough super carriers, faxes, and carriers. All you have to do is sit there. As they warp in dictors, you alpha them with your super carrier and carrier tracking fighters. As long as you have fax machines to rep you and the fax machines can rep each other, they're pretty much invincible. And so what happened was Tissue called it waterboarding, but it wasn't really waterboarding. It was branch residents desperately trying to keep them bubbled while desperately linking screenshots of, we've got them bubbled, guys, get here and help, to Pandemic Horde and their Masters, Darkness, and others. Nobody even bothered to show up. No one bothered to help them, and they basically threw away 50 dictors for nothing. Tissue killed the tower and then casually walked out when nobody showed up. So it's been absolutely a shit show in Branch, and it's been so fun to watch.
I've actually got half a mind to move a character out that way to just do burner missions and just harass the fuck out of these guys.
Well, there is a group for that.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, there's a goon group who has about 30 Astra houses all over in Venal, and they've been living up there just farming and making money. And,
really?
PL tried to kill 2 of them. Old guy named Jed Stevens. You might remember the name from Bastion. He was a super cap hunter. He reinforced them to hull, 2 of them. I went up there with bombers to save them, and PL didn't even show up till both were saved. And they dropped like 100 dudes, and then were too late.
Yeah, they'll occasionally throw like a insta-lock Thrasher or something or other on the undock. Yeah. But that's really about it. As far as I'm aware, I just joined up with them maybe a couple days ago.
Yeah. So that's our news from. Oh wait, hold on. We forgot about our test news. Since we're still talking about the North, Test is continuing its wonderful streak of bleeding competent people. They look like Brave Reloaded here. So Test recently kicked out one of their only capital FCs, a guy named Melzi, a guy I've never even heard of. I guess Villy had enough of him, told him pack your shit and leave, and the guy packed his shit and left. And, of course, Reddit exploded, but there really wasn't much about it because nobody knew who the fuck it was. So, that guy quit, so Tess is now down another Super Cap FC. When you think about it, though, it's actually kind of hilarious because you're missing a Super Cap FC.
I'm sure it's only a matter of time until he joins PL.
Well, there's no Pro God Legend, and no Villy leading fleets up there. So that leads to our next topic. Yeah. Hey, Luminal Flux, 16 months. Holy shit.
16 months.
Oh,
Thank
wow,
you.
yeah.
That is
Hell yeah, Luminal Flux.
Oh, apparently it's a female FC, too, on top of that, which is actually kind of surprising, because I'm surprised they would kick a woman out of their group, considering how they act. But anyway, this leads to our next thing, is when you kick your Super FC, another Super dies. This is the 7th Super Ratting Carrier to die in test space.
Wyvern?
This time it was a Wyvern, yes. PL continued its usual, let's gate our supers over to fail and drop them on something, and they killed another Wyvern. So a Wyvern died. There's the kill mill link and the Reddit thread talking about it.
26.5 bill.
Yeah, funny...
Wait. Okay, keep going. I have a question after this, but keep talking about the funny thing about how
the funny bit about this is that Test, the guy had a Sino fit, lit a Sino, and according to Villy, they're just like, he's like, hey, I'm tackled. They're like, okay, die quietly. Like, that would never happen in Goon Ratting space, right? The Goon Ratter carrier gets tackled. Motherfucker has like 50 supers jumping into him, right? They're saving his ass, even if there's hundreds of subcaps. They just
We
let
even
this
have that set up now in Delve.
Yeah, so
I mean,
I'm gonna ask you.
It's not hard to set the sort of thing up.
Yeah, so
Standing fleets and the like.
Go ahead.
I was just about to say, like, I'm looking at this the situation with, like, so it's always curious to me, and I haven't looked into this yet, so you get to see, like, live watching the wheels turn, or the crazy happen, which is, like, people in chat are saying that, this person was kicked from test and that they were really bad, apparently, in addition to being a female player. Apparently first it was like, guys, it's not a he, it's a she, and also they were kicked because they're bad. Now, I've got a couple questions about this. First of all, why was this person bad? And second of all, if they were a bad FC, why were they a super cap FC? Like, how do you get somebody to be a super cap level FC who is bad enough to be kicked? Because that doesn't say, what that says to me is nothing about the FC. Like, let's assume, hypothetically, summary judgment, that this person is actually bad at EVE Online, be they male or female, and that they were kicked out and told that they shouldn't merely be removed as an FC and knocked down to being a line member, but they should actually be run out of the alliance on a rail, right?
Yeah.
So that's the fact pattern. Let's take it face value. So the question I have is, why were they a super cap FC?
Chat says she showed Billy her tits. I don't know how real that is, but
I'm going to assume that is ironic sexism, and ironic sexism is actually sexism and whatever. But like, if you're in a situation where, regardless of like dumb sexist shit, regardless of the gender of the player, but we demote FCs occasionally, right? Whenever Asher loses a Jackdaw, it's a crisis across the entire Imperium, and we have to remind everyone that Asher Elias lost a Jackdaw and has been demoted yet again, and now is I think the 28th best FC in the Imperium. It is unfortunate. We keep holding out hope, but he keeps losing these T3Ds, and you just can't accept that in a leader.
As long as I exist, he will never be the worst.
That is true.
So here's an interesting point, though. As one of my good friends was in Test for a period, she was, and Test has always had this mentality of, oh, it's a girl. Oh, let's give her all the attention. Oh, she wants to FC things. Let's let her do it. This will be awesome. She'll be the best FC we ever had. They've always been that way. They'll just like fawn over any girl that comes on comms, which is very strange, considering we base a lot of our like fleets off metrics. Theirs is like, okay, whoever's the most popular. Yeah, almost like the Reddit mentality of, if you're the most popular at the time, you can do whatever you want. And that's what it feels like with this person. Someone I've never heard of. I've never seen lead a fleet for a test. Now all of a sudden is running their caps. Like, that's a progression of brand new person I've never heard of,
you could just remove their ability to be an FC. Like, we've had, there's always, this is just a thing in many organizations I've seen mirrored from spy agency shit, is that, periodically people will come in and they will get a degree of power and they like the power, and then they feel like the rules and the policies and whatever shouldn't apply to them because they're unique, special, and different. Nobody, including myself, is unique, special, and different, right? And if you think that you are, then you're going to think you're better than everybody else, and you're going to make dumb mistakes. Preventable mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You have to make mistakes to learn. Blah blah blah. But when we see these things happen repeatedly, the way that you deal with an FC who's getting a case of snowflakeism is you remove them from the FC group and you see whether they're going to mature, right? If they think that they're better than everybody else and then they just cause issues, then it has to be dealt with. But it doesn't mean that you have to kick them out of the alliance.
Well,
so org-wise,
it says here, Villy is quoted. It says, "I'm aware of the Melzi and her corp had some big issues, and she was asked to move on from the corp. She had been an incredible asset to Test and missed any corp lucky to have her. If that's the case, why didn't another corp just scoop her up? Like, why not just continue? Why is she getting kicked out?
Like, you're just removing
why
the
remove
rules
her from
from
the whole
Supercap
alliance?
FC. Yeah, like, there's nothing about this makes sense.
Yeah,
but the point is that, I would, let's say that Boat flips out. Right? And Boat is like, I need to run all of our super caps, and if you don't do this, then I will, I don't know, throw a tantrum. Then the answer would be not, Boat, I'm kicking you out of the alliance. The thing is, all right, well, you're going to go into timeout, and you clearly can't be an FC, and we'll see whether you're willing to mature in time. And it's not like he'd be kicked out of the alliance.
Right, and if he learned to behave after a set amount of time, put him back in his post.
Exactly, because some of our best directors, and you have to learn in many ways through failure. And some of our best directors in the Imperium have come around from people who started doing something, then they screwed something up, and then they got removed, and then they came back and proved themselves. And not only did they prove that they could do a better job and that they had matured, but they proved that they could recognize their mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and not be bitches about it. Right. So those are some of the best people. But and yeah, I think a lot of it does dovetail, like talking about org structures and who should be where and how you handle snowflakeism and things like that. Andale Chanter too here, if I'm not pronouncing your Andale Chanter too, whatever, says all this org stuff makes me think of the SA thread drama, which of course was all over the interwebs yesterday.
Yeah, I actually read that entire post.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. So, I mean, to summarize there are some people who were on the somethingawful.com thread about EVE Online and bringing up basically old dramas from almost 6 months ago involving people who had betrayed our organization, got removed during the war, or directors who had been fired from the Goonswarm Directorate for not doing their job and then taking it personally. So there's a lot of sort of airing of grievances that happened, which is kind of funny because it's a period of relative galactic peace and stability as far as the Imperium is concerned. Yeah. So I don't know why there's this big outbreak of stuff, but it was certainly entertaining, and like the entire, like starting on page 500 something of that essay thread.
Might need to clarify actually, because there's 2 EVE threads and Something Awful I just noticed.
Yes, there is. There is the serious thread and the unserious thread, and you can't actually tell the difference because neither of them are really all that serious. The one that's started by video games is the one, and I will...
page 500, you said?
Yes, starting around page 500.
Holy jumping Jesus, that's like 520.
On reading. What did I do wrong this time? Apparently I'm bad at reading. Oh, he's mocking me for reading. Yeah, I read Science Post. It was long, and it was a good read because it brought up some old memories.
Whatever happened...
Oh, sorry.
Well, actually, let me answer a question here, chat. So somebody's saying, whatever happened to fake goons anyway?
Yeah, I was good.
Well, yeah, ironically enough, you may have heard during the war all of this herf and blurf about how all the true goons would leave Goonswarm, the true goons, because there's no old school goons left, which is something that people just who are on the outside repeat, I guess, and hope that it's going to be the case. That everybody's going to join Darius Johnson's schism entity, the $10 bond. And, of course, this never happened, and it's bumping around with like 100 characters, and there were several meltdowns, and even more Reddit AMAs, all the stuff. And amusingly enough, we find out as of a couple of days ago that at EVE Vegas, which we are all going to, and it is going to be a goddamn riot. Hopefully it will be a goddamn riot without the crowd dispersal unit getting called on our private Imperium party this time. Because that happened last year, but we're taking steps.
There, hopefully.
Well, there will be less people because we won't be bringing a whole pile of people who are not in the Imperium with us, and also we're going to a private club where we have our own VIP area, sort of walled off in advance. Yes, and that is
nice.
So.
I'll also
be giving out.
Oh, sorry.
We'll be giving out tickets to that and invites to that at the Chateau party. On Saturday night, so people who deserve to be there know how to find me, and it's the same deal as last year. You get the special card, and then you get into a place where this time the right cops will not be called. Anyway, so Vegas is going to be fantastic, and what does this have to do with the story before? Apparently, Darius Johnson is going to be doing a presentation on...
Oh, God.
Literally, the title of this is A Practical Guide to Building an Empire in EVE Online.
Yeah, someone showed me that a couple days ago, and I fell out of my chair.
I'm just going to go ahead and link here in chat for everybody.
Wow.
And so, like, all of this stuff happened. Like, so he's a speaker, and he's going to talk about a practical guide to build an empire in EVE Online. And here, let me bring this up on Dotlan. And this is definitely empire building territory. It was funny because there's some people who like loudly flamed out and were all like, oh, we're going to go to this, and posting blogs and things like that. And then eventually they all made their way back into Goonswarm, and we're like, thanks for letting me back in. And I'm like, well, what was I going to do? Validate the martyr complex by shooting you? Like, whatever. If he's doing a more practical empire than we are, then God bless. I mean, I guess he could give a talk at EVE Vegas.
They're I think they're pets of the Pureblind group. I think they live in NPC Pureblind and get farmed on the daily. I don't even fucking know anymore. I didn't even think about Darius until someone messaged me. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, he's speaking as one of the top speakers at FedFest, or at the Vegas. But the thing that gets me is, didn't he write for the last 6 months about how much he hated CCP for not including him in some webcomic thing they did, and was basically hating on CCP? How the hell did you go from hating CCP for 6 months, more so than myself, might I add, to special guest presenting at an event in Vegas? It's like, wait, what?
Well, he worked for them briefly, didn't he?
Right.
That's true. Well,
So-
some motherfuckers are always
Maybe
trying
there's
to ice
that.
skate uphill, as it were. So.
Yeah, so
Oh, I love
yeah,
that line.
Speaking of
That
Vegas,
made my day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
speaking of Vegas, I believe it's been confirmed that I will have a penthouse to myself on Sunday night, and that no one will be staying there. And I am not gonna ruin my room like FCon did or was it Lon or FCon that told everyone about it, and $20,000 in damages later. They had to clean that up.
Well, that was actually the
Yeah.
lawn party suite several years ago, and that was the CCP bonus suite. So the lawn guys did not actually have to pay for that because it was all on CCP's dime, apparently.
Oh my
So,
goodness! Well, good job
Nice.
CCP, I guess. So that's Vegas. I can't wait for Vegas, dude. I'm so excited.
That's why they can't afford to hire decent developers. That makes sense.
Oh!
Wow! God, I'm glad you said it,
Wow.
because I
Okay.
wasn't going to.
All right. Well, I mean, let's actually say some nice things about CCP here, because we did recently have a patch, right? And
Yeah.
I have.
Oh yeah.
I've always been, I like spaceships, right? I was, I don't play nearly as much EVE Online in the traditional sense as most people do, and that's because I've always been hoping, and like when we did the time of the CSM, is that hoping to gradually push EVE Online to be the kind of game that I would like to play every day legitimately on its own merits. And I have loved the redesigns of a lot of the ships. Now, one of the things that I'm happiest about this patch that happened just a few days ago was the implementation of new Griffin model. The new Executioner model, but the new Griffin model is absolutely fantastic. The Bantam doesn't look stupid anymore. The Maulus looks basically just the same as the Maulus did before, so only a slight tweak all the way around. But if you guys haven't seen the new Griffin in game and its variants, it is amazing. One of the things that I've always given props to the CCP art department. They're one of the consistently the most amazing crews within the company, and it is really cool that they hired this concept artist who then redesigned the Blackbird. And one of his original pieces of concept art that he posted before he was hired, and he posted this on DeviantArt or something, was this is what he could do for a Griffin, and I think it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, they recently upgraded the claw and the stiletto model, and they look like dragonflies.
The new slasher model is really good.
Yeah, they look like short-nosed dragonflies, and keeping with the tradition of a lot of these new ship designs, the wings move on it now, so they can like X-wings. It's almost like an X-wing, actually. It's a no-nosed X-wing. Yeah. The wings come up when they come out of warp, and they go in when they go in warp. So it's pretty freaking cool. So that is one of my favorite ships in EVE to fly, and it is absolutely hilarious. Speaking of CCP, they have done a good job of really promoting this Alpha Omega event coming up. They announced recently that with the release of the Omega clones, if you stay subscribed to the game up until the Omega clone happens, they will be including a special edition destroyer that they're releasing just for those people. So as soon as Alpha clones hit, everyone that's been subscribed this whole time will be getting a fancy ship. So
is that going to be like the destroyer equivalent of the Gnosis in that?
That's correct.
Yeah, it'll be like
good at everything.
Yeah, good at everything.
Yeah, it's the Society of Conscious Thought destroyer,
Yeah.
and it has some sort of weird thing, it's called the Synesis or something or other.
Yeah, Synesis, yeah. Something
Synesis.
like that.
Okay.
Some fancy name to it, and it looks pretty cool. And that's the prize for staying subscribed. So they're trying to keep people subscribed. I think Alpha clones are going to work. I think it's going to be a huge success for CCP in terms of, like we said last week, they're just going to get so many more numbers showing up. It's going to look like more people are active. Just in the, I'd say, going from 25 to 30,000 active every day to 70, 80,000, maybe even more, just on the number of Alpha clones coming back. Because just things you can do with an Alpha clone already is level 3 missions and heists that can be done with Alpha clones, which is a pretty difficult thing to do in general. And then you have faction warfare, you have low-sec streamers, we'll be using them probably, a whole lot of that stuff.
Definitely.
So, especially
I think it's going to
since-
be a lot easier, because one of the things that's curious to me about the and obviously we're big fans of it, right? This is something that EVE has needed for years. And one of the challenges that we constantly have to deal with to get people to come back to games. So like, let's say that you started playing EVE in 2008 and you stopped playing in 2010. Well, back in the day, World of Warcraft was still, I mean, that is now back in the day, right? And that is relatively in the middle phase of EVE Online's lifetime, as 5 years in, 08 to 2010. By now, so many people, like the idea of coming back to a game that still has a subscription model is so much of a hard sell to our veterans, right? So even in the middle of a war where the player organizations reach out to their unsubscribed people and say, come on back, you've got to, previously when everybody had subscription MMOs and it wasn't a big deal, it'd be like, okay, sure, I'll come back, here's $15, because that's just what you did back then. That was the business model that everybody's used to. Now, everything besides a few games and EVE has gone free to play. So now the value proposition to a returning player of, hey, come back, and also, unlike all these other games that don't do this anymore, we want you to come back and play with us, but you've got to put $15 up front. Right? That's just such a huge hurdle to get over. And so I think that what you're going to see with alpha clones is it's going to be much easier, hopefully, for player organizations to reach out to their players from years and years and years ago and bring them back in without having them to take a $15 leap of faith when nobody else makes you do that anymore.
Yeah, so...
Not to mention, you'll get a lot more people logging in, and those kind of numbers, they can say, hey, well, look, we've got... this many more active users after such and such a time of using the alpha clone system, then they can possibly leverage that into receiving more funding for whatever projects they may have, because it would look like the game is being more successful, more active users.
I had an interesting thought just a second ago, is that if you're an alpha, they could use it as an advertising gig, where if you're an alpha, you have advertisement pop-ups in the bottom right-hand corner or whatever from their sponsors like Scope Industries and stuff like that. But if you have your Omega clone, you get rid of your sponsors, or you get rid of the pop-ups, the ads, and all that. That would be something I could see CCP doing.
Oh, in-game pop-up ads?
Yes!
Oh God, we've got a couple of questions here in chat and comments as well. So one of the first questions is, will they be opening the ISD program for alpha clones? I have no idea. They probably haven't figured that out yet. Next comments is somebody saying I don't really understand why is it easier to sell a sub model to vets or returning players than to newbies? I can't see the alphas bringing vets back. I don't understand why the person making the comment, Cole is gone, believes that, because maybe you haven't tried to bring somebody back to a game that has a submodel when they played in an era, in the modern era where people aren't used to doing it. So it's kind of like a block. Basically, here is a horrible analogy, but I'm afraid it's actually right. Currently, the subscription model MMO is the Blockbuster video of the online gaming market, right?
That sounds about
5-10 years ago. Everybody went to Blockbuster. It was just what you did. You went there, you rented the videos, you had a DVD or, God forbid, a VHS if you're really old. And nowadays, if you said to me, hey man, let's go down to Blockbuster and rent a DVD, I would look at you like you had just sprouted a third head, implying that you had a second head already, right? I would just be, what the hell? So that's essentially what it is that the market and the culture have moved on. We don't go to Blockbuster Video anymore. We don't pay subscriptions for online games, by and large. People choose in free-to-play games to pay for a premium tier, and then when they're not in the mood for it, they drop back out. And that's something... That is a proven business model.
Like an ArcAge.
Exactly, like an ArcAge, and also like ArcAge, or another good example of this would be Star Wars not Star Wars Galaxy, Star Wars: The Old Republic, right? So that's a game which everybody thought was dead, and in my view, the launch of Star Wars: The Old Republic was the formal death of the subscription MMO, because when that sucker launched and it face planted. And then everybody's and the argument was the reason why that game sucked was because of issues with the game. Well, that's not true, because when they changed the model where you could do free to play and then upgrade to be temporarily premium and choose to pay more, the game took off and has been making tons of money. It's a very successful product. It's again continuing to be a better and better game. So what we saw there was a contrast. The game is basically the same. With a subscription model in the modern post-Blockbuster video era, it died, and the moment that they had an actual updated business model with free-to-play and premium tiers, suddenly the same functional game is doing so much better. So that's why the alpha clone thing is so important. That's why it's so hard.
An interesting point too is that they say, okay, oh, no pores, pay for Eve. I haven't paid for Eve in 8 years, right? I paid for that initial subscription for Boat, and I've been using Plex since back when Plex was like $300 or 300 million ISK for a month. And all 7-8 of my accounts are all Plexed. If it wasn't the ability to pay for it with in-game money, I probably wouldn't even be playing Eve anymore. I would have quit a long time ago, right?
There's a lot of people like that.
And so being able to, for an old bitter vet who looks at Eve and goes, I don't want to go back and try it for a month with my old account if I got to pay $15 just to try it again to see if I'll even like it. They can come back. They can come back and spend a month. They can come back and spend a month with their alpha clone version of their character, which is limited compared to what it used to be, but they can see if they even like the game anymore. Come look at it and go, you know, I think I'd like it. Okay, now I want to fly my capital again. These people are having fun at caps, so they can at least come look at it. Otherwise, they have to watch streams. And what are streams of Eve? You have...
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
You have solo PvP streams, you have a guy mining a high sec with viewbots, and then you have one random-ass fight that you get to see once a month where it has 2,000 people watching. That's it. Like, there's no real...
And those fights that you see, the really big ones, are slideshows. Like, it's just like, okay, we're in 10% tie-dye, so you really don't get a chance to see...
And who wants to come back to that, right? So, when you can't get the whole scope of Eve unless you pay that $15. And there's not very many vets that are going to pay that. Maybe a new person might. But a new person has the trial, right? They could do a trial for 21 days. Why would they pay? And that's the thing, is there's that paywall. And by getting rid of that, I think they're going to get a lot of people back. And they're going to make more money. I think they're going to make a lot more money.
I hope so. I mean, we all want Eve to do well here because a healthy Eve is good for all of us.
It's good for everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough because like there still isn't any real competition for Eve out there. Like there is, the Dual Universe Kickstarter has started, and God only knows whether that's going to go anyplace. Elite Dangerous has sort of come and gone. It's still around, but it doesn't offer the same kind of things all the way around.
It seems like it's just too much.
It's a very specialist thing. I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia associated with... are you talking about Dual Universe or Elite Dangerous?
Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's very... it's a nostalgic throwback. It's a fantastic one. I mean, playing, actually, of any game that... If you like spaceships, of any game that exists in terms of the VR experience, I have never had a better VR experience than I have trying to play Elite Dangerous with at the time it was a Rift, and now everybody's using the Vive. But actually being able to be in a spaceship cockpit of a spaceship, which you can do in Valkyrie, but that's still an arcade game. With the thing about Elite Dangerous that's interesting is that you do actually have like the Cytec joysticks and the throttle and everything. So what you are holding to control your spaceship is a mirror in the game. So that's fantastic, and I really do like Elite. I haven't had a chance to play it.
Someone brings up in chat, Star Citizen's gonna crush Eve.
Oh God!
The scam that is Star Citizen. That guy was a genius. I'll tell you. That 100 million plus he made and walked away with
hasn't walked away with yet.
Well,
I still get those emails, which is kind of funny.
I'll be honest, that's a scam, and it's gonna be hilarious when it finally comes out. Like, hey, we can't really make this game happen, and I'll see you later.
I just really think that I forgot about Star Citizen, which is funny, and this sort of segues into something else. So I have some interesting news as far as like people writing articles. Whenever we bring up Star Citizen, there is this whole process of people yelling about Star Citizen versus Eve versus Elite versus whatever. And normally whenever we would write an article on TMC about Star Citizen, it would be fair, which means critical, which means that people would get furiously angry. So we are actually going to be moving platforms on the Botania.com. This is, I don't want to call it a big announcement because we're deliberately keeping this on the down low because the last time that we tried to change things on the website to improve it, it was a disaster area, right? And we don't want to have disaster areas, right? We have been essentially, we're talking about Spousal Abuse Coalition up in the Northwest before. We have essentially been in an abusive relationship with Drupal as a platform for many years now. And it's time to leave. And so what we have finally done is we've packed up our bags in our car, and we are moving on to a test site. We're making a site that is going to run in parallel with Matani.com. And it's going to be on WordPress. And one of the features that I'm really excited about, because we have great commenters, and this is me thinking about the Star Citizen thing again. Many times people will write essentially new articles in comments on the Matani.com in our Discus commenting system. And one of the things that's really cool about the WordPress version of the site that's coming is that people will actually be able to write full articles. They'll still have to press a button to submit them for editorial approval, such that it's not all just like offensive slurs and porn. But when we end up running something on Star Citizen, or when the Star Citizen guys come and they get really angry, they will be able to write their own articles when they get really angry and mash a button. It'll go into the editorial queue, and we'll proof it and publish it, and people can then react and respond to that. So I'm hoping to have much more of a community focus and actually a working CMS platform for the site that doesn't make us all hate ourselves.
Yep.
We're not talking about Discus, we're talking about Drupal. Sidrat 2015. The comment system is Discus, and Drupal is the back-end content management system horrible thing that the Matani.com has been running on since 2012.
Tiger, as far as I know, WordPress, I don't think was even brought up until recently, was it?
Yeah, actually.
Weren't
we guys, so he has a good point, which is, wait, didn't you guys say that WordPress sucks for about a year ago when the site was redone in the first place? That's absolutely true. We had been dealing with a lot of people who were all Drupal all the time, and then finally I got to a point of knowing enough about platforms and things like that that I could make a reasonably informed decision, and instead of going, oh, well, this guy knows better than me, I was just like, you know what, this is awful, we're going to WordPress, and I don't care what you think. And we are, and it's been working out a lot better all the way around in terms of the development. So I'm pretty pumped about that. But conveniently, because we're spinning up a test site, guys are not going to have to be forced to do one or the other. When we launch the new site, people will be able to stick with the Matani.com if they like the way that it is. So we're not going to be forcing a choice on people. Like, here's your new website, and you just have to suck it, because that has worked out poorly for us and many other websites in the past.
So everything will be cross-posted between the two sites, and that's going to be really, really handy.
That's correct.
And
so
pretty much anybody can contribute and be a part of the community, which is also fantastic, because that's going to just increase our reach and move into new games as people link up and play games that aren't necessarily EVE or ArcAge or H1Z1 or PlanetSide. And organic Imperium communities will likely be sprouting up all over games as a result of this.
So we're actually getting
Yeah,
me too. I'm seeing a fair number of questions from people. Somebody saying, is the new site going to have a new name? Yes, absolutely. Amusingly enough, considering the somethingawful.com thread drama, the original concept for the Matani.com was actually to call it, like, the working name of the site was Internet Spaceship News, because we wanted to have some sort of just Internet Spaceship News site. And amusingly enough, it was Indy that advocated for branding the site the Matani.com, which is really hilarious in context of all of his later dramas, and Indy constantly talking about how the Matani.com is awful, and how it's bad that it's named that and everything, and he was actually responsible for saying, no, really, we should just call it the Matani.com. So I'm sick of having my name on the site, and we're going to have, the new site is not going to have my name at all. It'll be great. I mean, it'll be for our community and for our people, and not about me, which will be awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that too. We've also been using Discord a lot lately. A lot of people have been getting on Discord. I don't even know what the number is of active people right now. But we've improved our ability to, like, interact with streamers. If you want to, like, say hop on a streamer show, you could easily just pop in with Discord. So that's pretty awesome. We've been using that quite a bit lately.
We do have a good question here about this also from Tiger Extreme, which is, why are we doing two sites and not a rebuild? Well, we get to do two sites because we want to get rid of the whole Matani thing. Like, I want it to stop. I want to stop having to have the focus on me, right? Like, I've actually, over the years, gotten more and more of a backseat. And we also want to run the sites in parallel for a bit so we can get feedback from people, because one's on WordPress and one's on Drupal. And instead of just, like, flicking a switch and say the Matani.com is now this other thing, we want to make sure that this new thing doesn't blow ass, right? And the way that we do that is we flick the switch, turn it on, get feedback. Because if we take away the existing Matani.com, which is what we did before, then everybody is miserable and pissed if what we provide isn't better. But I'm really excited about the user submission thing. Like, the fact that at every article that you read, you as a user on the new site will be able to write a response. And if it doesn't suck, we'll let you know if it sucks. We can send emails or send forum PMs to people, and actually have a dialogue of people writing essentially articles from the community to the community and responding to things. So if we think that people are not interested in Star Citizen, we don't write about it. But if somebody mentions Star Citizen offhand and they're like, "I'm really mad about Star Citizen. Here's an article about it," and then we run it, and then there's like 5 other response articles. We're like, "Whoa, holy crap! Everybody wants to argue about this. Awesome, here you go." So hopefully it'll make it a very semi-democratic community submission process.
Yeah, so moving on, because we're down to about 15 minutes left. We want to get to the guests of honor here today.
Hi.
Accessible Gamer. For those of you that don't know Accessible Gamer, I know him as Gamal Knox from my time in EVE.
Yep, that's me.
He's been playing EVE with us for a long time. I don't even know how long. But if you
I
take
started
a moment, yeah. So if you could take a moment and tell us about yourself and what you do, and with you streaming on Twitch and all that. So,
well, goodness, I've been playing EVE with Goonfleet, then the CFC, then the Imperium, for years and years and years. And about a year ago, I entered a contest to try and win an accessible minivan. Tried to leverage the support of the Imperium to push a button on a website to vote for me every day during the month of May. I didn't win, but someone who was doing graphic design for TMC said, "Hey, I like watching the videos that you made of you playing video games. You should probably stream for TMC." Then he got me in touch with Scion, and I started on a Sunday show, and the rest is kind of spiraled out of control, really.
Just like a nominate subscribing for 14 months.
Yes, thanks, Anonymous.
Yeah.
Nice subtle segue. There we go.
That's
all right,
fun.
There we go. Nice.
Thank you, Nominate.
All right, so a lot of questions been asked in chat, especially Twizzle Sparks, one of our Diplos in EVE. And he doesn't watch a stream very often because he's usually not up right now. He usually is asleep. He lives in Korea. And so he was wondering about your headset. If you could talk about that and how you actually do what you do.
Absolutely can.
Yeah.
What I have is, you can see, since there's a really big close-up of my face, you can see that I've got a straw in my mouth and a clip on my hat. And there's a little reflective sticker on that, and it's read by an infrared camera right next to my webcam. And so when I move my head around, it moves the cursor accordingly, and that's how I'm able to move a mouse. And then the straw, when I sip and puff it, that's how I left and right click.
Wow.
I just started getting into more games that require a bit more finesse, like first-person shooters and the like, because I'm able to move my right arm and kind of push on a joystick, and that gets me around most games. So it's between that and a few handy bits of software, I'm able to play pretty much everything but like the most Twitch reaction intensive games like Counter-Strike or Dota or something like that.
I could barely play those myself. And not quadriplegic, so
anything where you have to be like the fastest clicker in the West with 1.5 million actions per second, that's not something I'll ever be able to play. And I made my peace with that. I'm never gonna be a competitive StarCraft 2 player or something like that.
But I have to say though, it is absolutely amazing though that you're able to play Diablo 3. I play Diablo 3 sometimes with K-Color and some other people, and Gamal came and played with us one day, and he kept up in a game that requires you to be able to press a lot of buttons really quickly and bounce around so you don't die. And it was just amazing to watch that he was able to keep up without actually using his hands. It was a pleasure.
Whenever I play a game, I always try to look at the mechanics and find any way that I can game the mechanics to my own favor, to take advantage of the fact that I'm essentially living in hard mode. So
that is true. You are living in hard mode.
Yeah, so if I'm going to play Diablo, I'm not going to choose necessarily a Demon Hunter or something like that, where you have to be all over the screen at any given time and have evades for days and whatnot. But a spin to win Barbarian, hell yeah, I can rock that shit.
Yeah, so you
Actually,
you adapt what you're capable of to find your niche in the game, right? Like you find what you can
Precisely.
do in Eve or in Diablo,
Right.
where you're not hampered at all.
Like, I
Yeah,
struggle
exactly.
with
And
most of the games that you excel in. Someone brings up a point in chat. Luminaflux says here, Gommel tells me he multi-boxes at Eve and can play Logi. I can barely play Logi. I tried this the other day. That was awful with it.
I was actually thinking about doing some Logi classes because once I figured out exactly how to be a Logi anchor, I was just
So
like,
you don't
oh,
just
this is
do Logi, you're
easy.
also a Logi anchor.
Yeah, I've done that.
So
a
there's
few
no
times for,
excuse.
reboots
Basically,
and the like.
you should totally do that because
You
if anybody
can
is
do
all
it.
like, "Oh, this is hard," I'm like, "Well, are you in a wheelchair? Are you quadriplegic?" No, this motherfucker, he can be a Logi anchor and he can teach you. You have no excuse. I mean, that's a role model right there.
So
That would be a decent Eve stream. I think I might try doing that.
I think we'd
have
love
you
to see it.
thought
That would
of?
be fantastic.
Have
Because
you thought of?
honestly, that's
sorry.
something I've been struggling with is finding a way to stream Eve because
Do
Eve
tutorials.
is
Do classes.
yeah tutorials and
That's
classes. That
fantastic.
might be the thing to do.
Because I mean, then what we can do is once we do that, we can take the recording and we can chop it up into a YouTube video, and then like your streams then become a library of tutorials for people. And if anybody again says Eve is hard, again, you're they can't complain when you're doing it. So exactly.
I have another thing too. Someone was asking me this week when they watched one of your streams. They came on my show. They're like, "Has Gommel ever thought of doing a Dark Souls Let's Play like you did, Boat, where you died 400 times? I want to see who's better." And I could just imagine you being better at it than I, because I died 400 some times in that game.
Dark Souls is actually a game that is a little bit trickier for me to play because it involves having to lock onto the target, and that's kind of like an extra step that sometimes trips me up depending on the game. But when I play, say, a game like Mad Max, where you just click to swing your fist, and if there's a warboy in front of you, you'll punch the guy out. That's a bit easier for me. So
that's an excellent game, by the way. I love the Mad Max game. It's
that was so much fun.
Like absolutely.
I really should get into that again because there's something oddly cathartic about snapping
It's
other people's
viscerally,
necks.
yeah. It's viscerally very appealing, and you know it's funny because Warner Brothers had this entire plan for lots of DLC because they expected that game to do much better than it did.
Yeah.
And Goons loved it. Like it was sort of a standard issue, like sandbox, open world game. But we had a question in chat that I wanted to go back to here, which is one of the guys was asking you. Have you found? Let me see if I can find the question exactly. But have you found that playing and doing all this? Jim J99 says, while you're playing all these games, has it helped you with your mobility at all?
That actually, ever since I started using my right arm to control the directional movement in a character, I use a program to remap the buttons on a control stick. So some days it'll be WASD or up, down, left, right. Some days it'll just be like push to talk on the right-hand side or whatever. But ever since I started using a modified joystick more, I've noticed that I have a lot more range of motion in my right arm than I do on my left, which is a little rough because I use my left arm to actually move my chair around. So I spend so much time sitting at my computer playing video games with my right arm, it's now a little bit hard for me to move my wheelchair around with my left. So you give and you take. You give and you take.
I mean, I guess you could potentially, have you thought about like swapping it out? I mean, if you can actually increase your range of motion and things like that, then you like video game, like in this case, playing games becomes almost a form of physical therapy explicitly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's one of the things that the Gaming for Health movement, I guess, for lack of a better term, is trying to capitalize on. Ever since the Nintendo Wii came out, and you saw people in nursing homes and residential neurocare facilities using that to effectively improve their physical condition. That's been a real thing.
Yeah. So
I have actually kind of considered switching it over, but it would be really tough because I'd have to turn the controller around.
Yeah.
Because the controller's on the left-hand side, or the joystick's on the left side of the controller, and the buttons are on the right. So if I moved it, I'd have to turn the thing around and it'd be a little weird, but it's definitely something I have considered, just so I can actually move my arm better.
So one
Yeah,
thing,
Dirk has a question here. Dirk has one last question here, which is, what is the cost associated, and thank you, Dirk, what's the cost associated with the setup that you're using in terms of hardware and software, not the PC, but the additional mobility aids?
Oh, yeah. This is actually something that I will be speaking about during my panel, and it's something that I call medical markup. Companies that build assistive tech devices, unless you're talking about a DIY job or someone who is not actually involved in that industry, making a product and then selling it. The only example of that I can think of is this device called the Quad Stick, which was made by an electrical engineer for someone who lived down the street. And then it got turned into a Kickstarter that eventually ended up with him making his own business, and now he sells them. But every other company I've seen, they'll put a markup on a product that is no different functionally than the regular version. An example of this is the Natural Point head tracker. The model I have is, they have a model that's made for people with disabilities, and that model is $400. They sell the exact same model for people with carpal tunnel or something ridiculous like that.
Right.
It's no different functionally, except for maybe a software feature that might be there or not, and they sell it for $100 cheaper. Another example is the eye tracking device, the Tobii iX. If you ever seen or heard of that, it's been real popular lately with a lot of press involved with the Division, and I think the new what was that sci-fi game that came out recently that I don't play but everyone else does?
Overwatch.
No, it was like a sci-fi RPG. I can't remember.
Deus Ex, maybe?
That's it, yeah.
Right.
And
Human Occupation.
and the Tobii is being integrated with both of those games, and they're selling that model for $120. I got to demo it. I was really excited about writing a review, and once I told them about my situation in more detail, and I have a whole litany of emails going back and forth, they referred me to an entirely different department where they sell the same device for $2,000. I'm not kidding. $2,000, no different.
Wow. So basically what's happening here is that I guess the assumption, the distortion in the market is probably because of subsidies, right? It is assumed that if you are disabled, that you are under some sort of private insurance or federal disability or things like that. And whenever there's something like that, and this is not getting into politics or anything like that, but this is something that we see in many areas where there's tiers of products because they assume that, it's kind of like first class in airplanes is assumed that you're expense accounting it, and it's not you actually paying for first class or you're using miles.
Exactly.
So, the markup is there because it's assumed that you're not actually paying for it, which is an assumption that's, harmful to a lot of disabled gamers. Because maybe they don't have some sort of crazy federal subsidy or, internationally speaking, these products.
Or insurance. And it's crazy because they actually tell people to go out and apply for medical grants in order to get the assistive tech. And these are devices, like the Sip and Puff is a pressure switch in a little plastic box that connects to my
It's a straw,
USB.
for God's sake.
It's a straw and a pressure switch. And that right there is like $3.99.
I wonder. I mean, this is sort of a tangent, and we're running out of time here.
No,
but
time.
I wonder
But
about
it's all,
like 3D
they
printing
assume
and
you have
Fab
insurance.
Labs being able to take some of these things and undercut that market. That's interesting.
So medical markup is a real thing, and that's the reason why if you talk to disabled gamers, that the vast majority of them, and I'm talking like 70%, have either spent under $100 or over $500 on assistive tech.
Wow.
Yeah, so real quick, we are running out of time. I want to take a moment to talk about TwitchCon and what you're going to be doing at TwitchCon. So Gobble is going to be representing TMC and Accessible Gaming. his show with TwitchCon. Can you tell us about what you're going to be doing there?
Yeah, going to be part of a panel discussion.
Yep.
And I just linked the event itself. I'm going to be joined with a number of streamers with varying disabilities. There'll be actually a couple of guys from Deaf Gamers TV, Radders, this gal from the UK. She's got a few really serious illnesses that keep her from streaming, like chronic fatigue and ALS,
right.
Or not ALS, but rheumatoid arthritis, rather. Mm-hmm. And a guy named Good Times with Scar, and also Mackenzie's. So you've got people with scoliosis and epilepsy, and you got some deaf people, and unfortunately we couldn't get the blind gamers, but they do exist. And
wow.
Yeah, I think there's like a website called gaminginthedark.net that has all kinds of
that's amazing
stuff for blind gamers. I think there are even blind Eve players, but I'd have to do a little bit of internet searching to figure that out.
Wow.
Yeah. But
that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the panel will be aired by Twitch. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if we're gonna either host the account or set up our own cameras. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're gonna allow.
It depends. It'll be up to what they want and what they allow and everything. Most likely, they'll end up posting it from our end during your show.
I think each venue is getting its own Twitch account. So
yeah,
it'll be twitch.tv/Sandstorm Theater.
Yeah.
But I'm very much looking forward to meeting you, Matani. And
it's going to be a party.
Be there, boat, but I'll be sure to eat some cocktail shrimp in your honor.
Oh yeah, well we'll have Gommel, like I'll get a photo of like some shrimp in front of Gommel.
Oh god, that actually was I'm not even a shrimp fan. I did it because we have a guy in Sigma Squad that loves shrimp. And
man,
gotta represent Sigma Squad. So, but yeah, so it's been a great show. Thanks, Gommel, for stopping by. We are out of time by a few minutes. We're a few minutes over, but that's okay because I'm up next anyways. So,
the boat show.
Actually, next is Shout Chat.
Oh, Shout Chat, even better. We're going to be talking about Arcade and all the hilarious drama.
So, last week Twitch died for exactly 1 hour from 5 until 6, so that entire show was missed.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So we'll be catching up. We're going to have some good ones. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, for stopping by. Stay here. We'll be back in about 2 minutes with our next show.
For Shout Chat. Excellent.
Bye,
thanks, guys. Thanks, Gommel. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the MetaShow.